Well, hey, how the heck is everyone? It's good to see you. It's good to be seen by you. I am your humble host with the most, Mr. Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good weekend and hope you're all healthy and well and that everything is going just fine and dandy with you. Sorry for the confusion on the start time. That is entirely my fault. I just kind of tripped over myself, but we have a heck of a show lined up for you tonight. Now, things have been a little crazy around here, as you may well know, but I haven't forgotten that we've been having a good time doing deep dives of classic AD&D and OD&D, other stuff, books and modules. We've been enjoying those. You guys seem to have liked them. So we're going to continue that, and we're going to be doing things a little, just a tad out of order, just a little bit out of order. Don't let it blow your mind. Don't be freaked out. Calm down. Relax. Center yourself. It'll be okay. I promise it won't mess you up too much. Now, with all of the modules we've had historical perspectives. We've had some insight from the wonderful and talented Paul Stormberg on S3, which I know Luther Pendragon probably got a huge kick out of that. Thank you very much. And one of the things, though, that we have not done is been able to talk to the author of some classic AD&D modules. Well, that changes tonight because we have a semi-regular guest of ours, a swell guy. We love him around here on the show. So I'm going to stop babbling and delaying. I'm going to put my studio headphones on here so that I can hear the words of wisdom of our buddy, Mr. Alan Hammack. Alan, how are you? It's good to see you. Sir.
I'm pretty good, thank you. And yourself?
That remains to be seen. Ask me after January 7th, when Alabama will have either won or not won another national championship, and I'll let you know. Roll Tide.
Got you, Roll Tide.
But no, I'm doing great, and I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your kicked back retired, right?
That's right. Yes, you're cutting into my beer at the Tiki Hut bar time.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I didn't even FedEx you a cold one to share with us tonight. So no, thanks for coming on the show, because I was like, we if we're deep diving classic modules, this right here is we got to talk about. And I said, who better to talk about it than you?
Oh, my pleasure, and I'll be glad to make up things as I sit here to answer you. So
just make up stuff on the spot.
Well, let me do my traditional podcast warning. All of these answers will be as best I can recall. It's been a long time.
Fair enough. Now, I do know one question that I asked you before, and this is a little something that I had told people, because I, like, before we met, like, when my total sum knowledge of you was that your name is on various cool AD&D products that I like. I suspected for the longest time that Ghost Tower of Inverness, just based on the fact that it's a tower, there's a wizard, it's haunted. Oh my God, did I just ruin it? Did I just kill your whole Alan's just like, that's all my material, Bill.
Yeah. The future royalties I was expecting from that have just vanished. So.
I did like water on a griddle. I'm so sorry, Alan. I'll have my lawyer contact you, and you can work out proper recompense. But no, I had as a younger man, thought, well, I bet this guy was influenced by Moorcock because there's an entire novella packed in his Eternal Champions, Elric, Hawkmoon, and Corum novels called The Vanishing Tower. But
I certainly read Moorcock,
but you had not read The Vanishing Tower, and that's not what we're dealing with here, right?
That is correct. And obviously the cover artist was also in on the intentionally misleading joke about being haunted and all of that. So
yes,
as one of the humor descriptions of the module covers went, the toothpaste monster escaping from the
that's an Aquafresh ghoul. I think he takes 2 levels but leaves you minty fresh. So you got to kind of balance it. I've been eating iron rations for months. My breath smells like a dead abattoir. I'm going to lose a level, but I'll be wintergreen.
That's correct. Yeah, it'll make up for chewing on the hardtack biscuits for a day to get them soft enough to swallow. So.
Yeah, no kidding. Not to wander too far off topic here, because I never do that. I know you've watched the show enough to know that I stay like a monorail.
Yeah, I did refer to your questions as impertinent, but
yes, but impertinent as they are. But there's a YouTuber, and he's awesome. He comes across as just a quirky, fun guy. Steve MRE 1989. Do you know the guy?
I don't know him, but I certainly know MRE. So yeah,
his shtick is he will buy prepackaged military / survival food and unbox it. He does unboxings on his YouTube show and then consumes it, which, okay, all right. You go to the Army Navy store, you get an MRE from 2008. No. This guy has eaten like tinned spaghetti that was packaged for soldiers in Vietnam. And
that's pretty brave.
His oldest meal, his 2 oldest meals. I'm going to tell you about his 2 oldest meals, and then I promise we'll talk about this. He has eaten beef porridge from the Boer War, like powdered beef that he shaved off of the can and boiled and ate, and said it was horrible. It was like how a good baseball glove will smell. He said that's what it tasted like. And he has eaten hardtack, like a piece of preserved hardtack from the early colonial days in America. But anyway, so yes, the toothpaste school would have come in handy for Steve there. Let's start off, and I'll read the cover blurb. I'm going to do it off the PDF, and we're going to have the PDF up on the screen, and we'll look at stuff here in a minute. But I want to, for our viewers who might not be hip to this, just to kind of let you guys know, and I'm sure Alan could probably close his eyes and recite this, but
that's 3 of you out there, yes.
3 of you. Let's see. A shadow from the past, the ghost tower of Inverness has loomed ever larger in the minds of the great seer of Ernst. Now he is convinced the Duke that an expedition should be organized to go to the ancient keep and recover its greatest treasure, the fabled soul gem. And that is the blurb. That is the wind-up we get. And then we jump straight into the history. Now, we've been making fun of it now. We've been making mock, as they say, for a good 6 minutes. But the cover art by Jim Rosloff in this version, because there are 2 different versions of this. Did Jim show this to you and say, "Hey, Alan, is this okay?" Or did you go to him and say, "Give me a toothpaste monster, Jim"?
I think you give creators and editors far too much influence over the art department. It wasn't at least in our, Gary could probably have gone and say, "I want something changed," but we had to, it would have, by the time they were far enough along that we could tell what they were doing, we were pretty much committed to whatever their vision was, because it was too late to pick up anything else. So yeah, it's the artist. I'm pleased. I've always loved Jim's work, and I was tickled with all of the artists, everything they did for me. Errol and Jeff D and Diesel, and throwing. Anytime they did something, it was like great, because they're so much better than I am. It's like,
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, my early attempts at making self-published modules, usually I would like take a picture of some miniatures and then put a blur filter on it. That's my art. So you had the advantage of having actually like good artists. But Jim's stuff was fantastic, and I always tell people, like, he was my gateway to D&D, because he did that wonderfully bleak cover of Keep on the Borderlands. Mm-hmm. The hobgoblins fighting the dwarf and the elf and the man on the just desolate moors.
Right.
And then right when you open the cover, he has probably the best owlbear illustration of all time. Mm-hmm. But once again, we're veering. So this module, let's dive into the history. This was actually a tourney module from a few years before, was it not?
Right. The C series meant competition.
Okay.
And Lost Tomoachin was the first of these, and mine was the second. The idea was that at tournaments, which we always ran at conventions, there was a huge demand for the people that had played in the tournament, wanted to buy the tournament that they had just played in and take it home and inflict it on their friends. This was practically an impossibility up until we got to the idea of the C1 and the C2, where we could have a low-cost production of the module available for sale at the convention after the tournament was run. And so that's where the Ziploc green cover, monochrome, green and black cover is the original Ghost Tower cover. And in the Ziploc, that was available, a couple of hundred copies, numbered copies would be available for the people to buy after the tournament at the convention. And as it turns out, those are by far the most valuable versions of it, because they were signed and limited. And at the time, it was exactly the opposite. We thought maybe putting a number on it would increase its collectability, but we had no idea that was going to be so much more valuable than the actual production run when we got to it. So
yeah, I mean, it sure is. I haven't dared to look. I toyed with the idea of buying one of your signed and numbered copies in the early 2010s. Mm-hmm. And I think it was north of $1,100. I had a lot more disposable cash at that time, but I haven't dared to look since then. I would imagine it's probably jumped up by a couple of factors.
You're probably closer in the thousands now. So, yeah.
But a lot of the unobtainium modules do occasionally enter that sort of naughty gray zone where one can acquire a copy but not really own a copy. But I have not heard of Ghost Tower yet coming up through such a medium. And as I've said before, and I want to make this as clear as possible, there's no smile on my face, no wink wink. I to my audience, not to you, obviously, I don't condone or endorse digital theft. I don't. In my own tiny way, I am an author too, and I would hate to see somebody just taking my stuff.
Well, and I have the pleasure of knowing that, you know, the rarest of the copies, the designer copies that were my personal ones, are owned by people who really are fans, you know, and are doing it for me, and that's why the value, you know, went up. I appreciate seeing games end up in the hands of people that really like them, not just, you know, thinking I'll flip it for, you know, 10% more in 3 years, you know.
Right, yeah. And I at the same time, you know, it's like you, I kind of wear two hats on the subject. It's like you love to see the value go up, but you want it to be in the hands of a gamer.
Right.
You know?
I do.
You know, so somebody is going to enjoy the game. So you created the tournament version. Now, obviously, I can't and I wouldn't ask you to break out one of yours and sit down and say, okay, now let's go through point by point and just all the differences. But right off the bat, before we dive into the details of the retail version, is there a major difference? Something that if we folk were lucky enough to ever see the pastel copy would just like, whoa, that is totally 180 degrees from what we've got in the 4-color version?
Well, the major difference is that there are no optional encounters in the original green copy. It was purely the tournament in the style of old stuff, where old tournaments where we didn't mince words, and you know, sometimes there would be 2 or 3 sentences and then the DM can play this out as they see fit. Well, we actually tried to for the tournaments to spell out a little more regularity, because one of my beefs coming in to TSR was having played in tournaments where 2 players with different DMs running, you know, at the same tournament would get different experiences, because one of the DMs ruled one way on something and another one ruled another way, and that kind of you know, you want the players to get a similarity of quality of experience, even if it's not the same experience. So, you know, everybody should have the equal chance. That the big boss should fight the same way, you know, for everybody at the end. So,
okay, I got you. So that kind of goes back into, and Gary sort of touched on this very strongly, not just passingly, but very strongly in the afterword for the Dungeon Master's Guide, was uniformity of play. You put similarly skilled players through an adventure. You should get the same, not necessarily the same outcome. Like every group will beat the boss. Every group.
Yeah, I think he actually was addressing more to the so you could take a group of D&D players from Hawaii and from Alaska and from Alabama and from Wisconsin, and that they would all, within 5%, you know, understand the rules in the same way and expect them to react. Understand that a magic missile, you know, didn't require much area to see and was always going to hit. You know, to understand that you don't have to minimize the you know, armor class of something in order to be challenging on it. I guess what I'm trying to say is it for such a complicated game in the earliest days, there was real difference between people coming from different parts of the country, and you know, if you sat at the same table, you literally might expect a spell to work differently from the guy next to you, because that had been your experience. I think that at that time, that's more what Gary was trying to address, was that AD&D could perform a more uniform experience for people, and they would come to a convention like Gen Con and know what they were getting into, as far as not having to be taught the rules, you know, not just because you came from a different DM. So, you know, that would be the point, is that everybody that learned AD&D under a DM would have a reasonably similar understanding of what's going to be played.
Okay, I've got you now. So, and you're talking more about uniformity of outcome in a tournament setting is what you were striving towards, then, yes?
I think so. Yeah, that is what the, you know, Harold and Jeff in C1 and me in C2 were trying to get, was a more uniform tournament experience. And
okay,
we kind of reached the epitome of that with the Slave Lord series, where we so carefully balanced all of the hit dice, and this was before there were challenge ratings, but really we're talking about challenge ratings, you know, right, of everything. So,
and I tell you, in retro, I was thinking about that today before the show. I was like, why didn't I invite you on for this? Because we did a whole deep dive series on the Slave Lords too. Well, we'll just have to do it again. We'll just have to do it.
Yeah, that'll be fine. I see a comment from Luther Pendragon about a high school club.
Absolutely. Let's put that up on the screen. Yes.
Congratulations. And speaking of, you know, high school D&D clubs, love your T-shirt there.
Thank you.
Hellfire Club. So good luck with that. And boy, you know, I mean, I'm glad we're glad it's not the 80s and the Lions and Dragons Society would be facing parental protests, you know. So
yeah,
just have fun, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Big shout out to Lions and Dragons. Let me tell you something. Enjoy the heck out of it. You guys, to quote Obi-Wan, have taken your first step on a larger path, and I think you're going to have a heck of a lot of fun. So shout out to Lions and Dragons. Shout out to Luther. That's 26 kids. That's almost enough for one AD&D group right there at the table. Or two small groups, you know. If you want to break them into small groups, it's two small groups. But yeah, so congrats, Luther. And Luther's a tighter too, I should point out. So not just congrats, but roll tide, Luther.
Roll tide.
We've got actually. We Tide fans are holding it down because Luther's a Tide fan, and Imperial Ramblings there in the chat is a Tide fan too. So, well, I guess let's dive in. I'm gonna bring in. I'm gonna kind of as a third window, so our audience can kind of follow along here. Let me see, gonna share screen, just 7 easy steps to getting the screen up there. So here we see it, here we have it. Come on. And there we go. All right. So Alan and I are shrunken down to postage stamp, but we've got Ghost Tower of Inverness and the infamous toothpaste monster right there on the cover. So you touched on something interesting, and as it's staring us in the face right here, for you guys at TSR, when you designed adventures for character love, I mean, obviously, you're not going to send a first level character into the Ghost Tower of Inverness. Like 3 first level characters into the Ghost Tower of Inverness. That's just a sieve. The party walks in this end and a thin slurry comes out that end. But when you were designing Ghost Tower or any of the modules, really, how did you how did you say this is suitable for 4th to 7th levels or 5th to 7th levels or 9th to 12th or what have you?
Well, the character levels were probably more. I don't remember whether we had to agree to certain ranges with the people running the tournament or not, but generally, if I had an idea, I had an idea for, a big bad or a boss monster, and I tried to think of the lowest level spell that could totally disrupt it, and then try to either make it harder or back the party down a level off of that. So at some point, especially Magic gets harder for the GM to challenge, and there are more opportunities for DM interpretation. So if I gave somebody a high enough character to have a wish spell as the worst example possible, then there are going to be the number of wishes as of the number of parties in the tournament, in this case maybe 100, and so there are going to be 100 different decisions on the wish, any one of which could abjectly skew the tournament. So you want to keep things down away from things where there are obviously subjective calls being. You want to minimize the subjective calls. Again, it's part of the uniformity of experience in there. But I mean, after a few years of playing D&D, you do get kind of a handle on what type of monsters your groups have been able to handle at certain levels, and so that just kind of carries on, and you throw stuff out and you create a quick play test, and if it doesn't go too badly, then there you go. All of the wandering monsters are keyed in a fashion similar to the way the Dungeon Master Guide did wandering monsters per dungeon level. The deeper the level, the tougher the monsters, kind of thing. And so you could use that as the guide for the wandering ones. For the actual programmed encounters, we wanted to, again, take some subjectivity out of them and try to make sure everybody got the same thing, and one of the clever author tricks here was to give the illusion of choice at the beginning when in effect they were still having to do a railroad game. So
So let's just, I know we're kind of jumping around a little bit here. If you'll bear with, we can take a quick, we're taking a quick look at the wandering monsters. And of course, as it says, not for tournament use. And I'm sure that when you're running a tournament, you've got 3.5 hours or 4.5 hours at most at a con. And, you run into a pack of bugbears. You run into another pack of bugbears. Oh, there's a black pudding, and you're like, we just want to get to the room. There's a room. It's right down the hall. So obviously these are right out, but we've got
the idea here was that in the published, in the full published version, the red version, we wanted to add enough extra things so that it would be several adventures worth of adventure for the DM, to get more bang for his buck, more play for it. So that's why that's why the optional encounters are there. That's why the wandering monsters are there.
And that goes back. If we go up a little further up into the table of contents, you've got the regularly published version. You've got how to score tournament play, which if we could, we could take. You don't mind taking a quick look at the scoring, do you?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So here we have how to score tournament play, and we've got a scoring sheet on the back of the module. Just FYI, guys, if you've got one of these, just photocopy or scan. Don't rip the back pages out, please. But you've got a record sheet here for DM scoring. Now, this is something I loved in the A series that you guys put together, and I've used A1's scoring system before to just run that fairly narrow section of A1 as an event, and I gave a prize to the person who had the most hit points left or points or whatever it was at the end. But just kind of take us through here. Or you can stop me at any point.
Well, the main thing is successful. You get a certain number of points for completing each room in the tournament that you have to go through. And in this case, completing doesn't necessarily mean slaying everything in there. It just means getting through it. Getting to the next thing. You lose points if you die. And we also wanted to reward the time efficient teams. And so there's a kind of a clock ticking for points too. So the faster teams are going to get a higher score as well. And we've got it written down as number of turns elapsed. So there is a way to have people can be game efficient and real life efficient, and those can complement each other, but they don't have to be the same thing. You could take 15 minutes to think about a room and then make one call, and we bypassed it, and you've still saved a net amount of time, and a huge number of turns in game turns. So we reward you for that. In general, I just wanted to keep down the amount of subjective scoring that was possible.
Sure. And I think that's the science of it. I mean, it's a beautiful science. It's an artistic science, but the science of it works very well for tournaments, because then there's not a question of, well, okay, so Alan's running Ghost Tower and he scored his team with a total of, overall score 500 points. Well, Bill ran it and he said 800 points. Why? Well, right. I just think they did better.
Yeah. You'd think they were 300 better, So.
Yeah, I think they were 300 better. But here it breaks it down so simply. So you can say, hey, Bill, you guys came in 10 turns slower than Alan's table did.
Right. And there is a factor for subjective bonus, but it's a small factor. It's going to be more of a tiebreaker factor than
Right.
anything else. But
And
yes.
when you had these multi-table games like Ghost Tower, did you have a kind of a marshal or a referee who moved table to table and would decide factors like that? Like, this table came out exactly 500 points. This table came out exactly 500 points. Ref, what's, how you gonna call it?
Well, Bill, let me tell you, I was very happy with this tournament because I decided I had designed the perfect tournament because one and only one team finished on time with all characters surviving, and accomplished the mission. So
Nice.
out of however many teams there were, one team did that, um, including David Baxter, who's a fairly well-known actor, player of D&D now, was
Mhm.
among that team. So anyway, obviously, clearly, I designed the perfect dungeon scoring system because only one team won. There was no debate. Um, we didn't have
Beautiful.
we didn't have. I don't remember a bunch of people getting up and having to ask questions of something. I think it went pretty clear. There is nothing like hearing another team cheer to realize that you're too slow at your table, and you need to pick things up.
Right on. Right on. Well, that's awesome. So you just everything just kind of came down to one clutch team. I love that. Like you say, you designed the perfectly balanced adventure.
And
Everything
there,
worked.
there was another team that finished, but only four of their characters lived. So they came in second.
There you go. And we have a question from Vincent Nota Bartolo. Says, here, I'll just throw this up on the screen. Whose idea was it to turn certain modules into competitive play instead of just cooperative play as the games and modules were initially intended? Now, the C series, obviously, right off the bat, designed to be competition play. It says it on the 10, right?
Right. It was the other way around. I mean, from the beginning, we were going to this Detroit convention, WinterCon, and we were supposed to provide a D&D tournament, and so it was going to be a tournament, and so it was our choice to make it a publishable module, and it was a marketing choice that I, to the best of my recollection, that Harold Johnson and I pushed and got Mike Carr on board and said, look, we could do a low cost, version of this to sell at the convention, and who knows, maybe sell 100 or 200, and make our travel expenses for the convention. So. Um,
No,
uh,
TSR didn't expense the whole thing for you guys.
well, no, but what I meant was TSR would make their expenses for the.
I see. Okay.
It was not the rolling in dough days, quite.
I got you. Yeah, because that would I think, what did it say? 78. You guys did this in the pastel version.
Go down WinterCon.
November 79, so almost 80.
Yeah.
Almost 80. And this, now, not this specific convention, because this is WinterCon 8, but WinterCon, just a point of trivia for our fans. WinterCon was also begat Lost Caverns of Sojkonth. So there's, if you didn't know that, there's a little bit of trivia for you, which you should, because I know you're all faithful fans of the show. But we get into the meat of it now, the non-tournament play, where you can really flip a campaign on its ear by sending some unsuspecting party into the ghost tower itself. And
Bill, let me, if I may have misread that question, if he meant competitive play as opposed to team play, I mean, you work competing, but you were competing as a team, not against each other on the team. So I wanted to make that clear. It wasn't that kind of thing. Now, earlier, some of the Judges Guild tournaments had been, individual character based. I wasn't competing against anybody on my team at Gen Con 9. I was competing against all the other mages. So not team versus team, which was a strange kind of way to play it. Anyway, so
yeah, a deathmatch D&D novel.
Yeah,
or D&D module rather. So yeah, getting into the non-tournament play, we kind of get into first of all, 5 to 10 adventurers of levels 5 to 7, and at least one thief, one cleric, and one magic user. So did you run this with a home group or some folks at TSR? Is this whole cloth from your own campaign?
The dungeon Inverness was from my own campaign, and some of the map design and encounters were from my home campaign. What I had to do was, in a relatively short period of time, put together a module for use as a tournament in this. And so that was the real challenge, was doing that. And then we had a brief play test both at TSR and with a home group when I went home for Thanksgiving, I think. And it was like, yeah, okay, they didn't get TPK'd, so it's balanced. So
nobody died, must work, print it, let's go. Which I think is how they used to make Westerns in the 30s and 40s. But anyway, so we've got a pretty good backstory here. And you, by the way, if you folks don't know this, if you haven't been in the audience on the shows that Alan's been in before, first of all, you've missed out. But to the best of my knowledge, this is the only AD&D module that has been turned into a mini rock opera that features its author as a vocalist on it. You actually voice old Gallop Dreidel yourself, yes?
I appear in the music video, but I will confess that Rich dubbed my voice because he's a better singer than I am. I mean,
okay.
It is supposed to be music, and he wanted it consistent with the rest of his sound.
Fair enough. But I still maintain that that puts you into the category of the American Christopher Lee. You're quite welcome. So that's Bards of Greyhawk. They're the guys that provide the sound for the intro to my show, folks. Check them out on YouTube. You can find them linked in the description below.
Great guys, yes.
They are fantastic guys. And yes, there is a Ghost Tower of Inverness track by them that I'm still going to phrase it this way. Features Alan Hammack in it.
Thank you. I think it's the one called Gallop Dreidel.
Yes.
So yes.
And so this particular module, this takes place in or around the locale of Ernst, as given away by the where the characters start then.
Yeah, well, we had a directive that all modules had to be shoehorned into the world of Greyhawk at that point. So so whether or not it made logical sense, I retconned it into Greyhawk.
Well, hey, I mean, a tower that.
Yeah, it worked fine. I found a suitable terrain area. Basically, that's how I decided that it would be in Ernst. Was I looked at the map and I found Woolly Bay, and I decided that would be the place.
And I have to say, and I mentioned this before on the show, when I was a kid, I live in Central Florida, and we have an Inverness here. I was more than a little disappointed to find that there was not a ghost tower there. It's a bit of a letdown, but what can I say?
Bill, you can only see it on certain moonless nights.
Oh God, we never went there on a, well, when the show's over tonight. No, I've got to play a D&D game tonight.
There
well. I'll get up there one day. Inverness off of I-75. But you were thinking of an Inverness in Alabama, yeah?
No, that was I mean, there is an Inverness area near Birmingham where I lived for a long time, but that was not what inspired it. The title was inspired by a radio serial that I heard when I was in college. A very strange radio comedy religious thing called the Fourth Tower of Inverness, and but that's the only, other than High Upon a Hilltop, that's the only part that I carried over from it. Everything else was the D&D idea that I had. Now, I frequently got questions from my UK friends. Were you thinking of Inverness in Scotland? And I said, well, I mean, it's a lovely name, and I know what the words mean, and I know that it may not logically make sense, but it's a cool sounding name, and that's really what we were going for there.
It is a cool sounding name.
A few years ago, I did actually go to Inverness in Scotland. I did take a copy of my module. I've got a picture of me holding a copy of the Ghost Tower of Inverness in front of Castle Inverness in Inverness, Scotland. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Kind of Inverness inception.
Yes.
And we get into some great dialogue here. I mean, normally the infamous box text monster can bog a module down, but I think you did a great job here. You give the module a really good voice, particularly when you're talking about tournament characters here. And this is all you, right? This is all 100% you're writing here as your party. Basically, this is you're all in, and I don't want to oversimplify it, but we could be here till midnight without even getting into the meat of things. But your party's in jail, and you're given the option of parole, of going into the ghost tower, getting the soul gem, or spending the rest of your life in prison, or facing the headsman's axe. And then you've got this beautiful fantasy dialogue here, where Duke Justinian Lorinar of Ernst calls the party in, and a smile creeps across the Duke's face as he speaks to your small band. He seems strangely pleased with the turn of events. I imagine you are wondering why you have been brought to appear before me today. His eyes sweep approvingly over the 5 figures in your group. None of you betray any apprehension about what is to come. Most of you, he continues, have been convicted of crimes for which you should spend the greater part of your lives in my dungeons. And then it goes through, and you've got the various crimes leveled against you all. And these are great names. Disinque. How do Discinque? How do we pronounce that?
I pronounce it Disinque, and it actually was a hat tip to a character from my campaign, and he that wasn't his name in the campaign, but basically his the joke was Disinque was the 5-finger discount. for the theme.
Okay, I got it now. I got it. That's good.
Yeah.
That is.
And I have to say that Hodar, Xenathar, and Lembu were my classic name generation system of stabbing a page in the dictionary and seeing what words came up. And I would break the word up. I would not take the word that was there. I'd take half the word and then put it in front, and take another half a word and put it in back. So I remember Xenathar came from magazine and something else, so.
I dig it, man. I dig it. So we've got our characters here who've basically been giving their marching orders. And then we get a fun shopping sequence. You've been given enough gold to equip yourself for the adventures you see fit. I'll provide you with a wondrous magical amulet, which is basically a word of recall for everybody after they pull off the mission. And then the party gets to go shopping, which I think the list
there's actually the list in there. And I've gotten, this is more evil DM stuff, because this is as a tournament, this is the opportunity for the party to waste all the time that they want out of their allotted time. The clock is running. I mean,
right.
And while they're shopping. So again, the efficient parties say, okay, the monk doesn't need anything. I'm throwing 4,000 back into the pot. You guys spend it. If you can get your shopping done quickly, you're that much farther ahead, in actual play time that you can use in the tournament.
Nope. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, it really is. I think Paul Stormberg referred to that as a gambit to leverage against the players.
And it also is a little bit of false flags and red herrings and things, because if you throw out a magic item that's real powerful about something that they're not going to encounter, it's, oh man, did we screw up? So
yeah, exactly. We're this, and it's not the case here, but this tower is all water levels. Why did we bring the wand of fire?
Or I guess the sword of slaying the fire-breathing dragon wasn't necessary. So.
Yeah, exactly. We certainly could have used a bag full of potions of healing instead of that.
That's almost always the choice. So.
Yeah, I mean, if it were me. If it were me, I'd say, look, all fighters get a +2 sword. Everybody gets as many, as many potions of healing as they can conceivably carry with the money that's left. Let's go. Let's go. let's go.
And I think, and there's a lot to be said for the groups that were quick off the ball like that. So
yeah, and not just oohing and awing over getting to go catalog shopping, because I think you and I are in the same age range. You remember looking through a Sears catalog as a kid, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And if you pin a party down here, and let them waste 15, 20, 30 minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you've got 3.5 hours at a con, that's a significant chunk of playtime. So then we get into the wandering monster tables, which we kind of touched on before. Now, the upper ruins, these are scary wandering monster counters for the upper ruins. I mean,
remember where the wandering monster is. The idea for this is, if you wanted this to be a recurring fixture dungeon, the way we played old D&D, was that it would be multiple trips to the dungeon, and each time you came back, there could be different things there, different creatures restocking. They would be the same encounter level at level 1 and at level 2 and at level 3, but they could be different and they could have restocked themselves. So the idea was this could be a fixture where do we want to go this week? Let's go back to Inverness and see if we can get down to the 3rd level, and
Right.
Something like that. So that was to help this kind of thing instead of necessarily a knock this out in one whack kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because when you're talking about, just to look at some of these, a horned devil, oh my gosh. And I'm here to tell you, audience, Alan already knows this. I'm already aware of this. But if anyone out there in the audience is not fully pursuant with AD&D, Ogre Mage played right, you're going to need to roll up new characters.
And there could be 2 of them, yes.
And there could be 2 of them, exactly. 2 halfling children, of course we have to rescue them. Ray of Frost. We'll take that stuff off your corpses now. And I'm not talking right off the bat. I'm talking about when everybody's asleep and you fed them s'mores and you're all snuggled up safe in your camp. 6-headed Hydra, an illusionist, which some folks in the comments were talking about illusionist. But let's see. Do you have the illusionist statted out, or is that just up for? Oh, there he is. Yeah. The illusionist is bad news.
Yes. Well, and part of this was I tried to throw in some things that I thought had been underused, or you didn't see that often, especially in modules and tournaments. And it was kind of like you played correctly. The illusionist was not a joke. It was a serious threat. So
yes, I have had a couple of players in my Monday night game run illusionist, and not only are they a handful to throw at the players, they're a handful to DM.
Yes. Yeah.
When you're like, okay, all right, you hear the snarl of the were-tigers as they approach you. I cast Phantasmal Killer. God! It's just like, what can you do? We have a few comments. I've been leaving some folks in the dust. I just want to make sure we haven't missed anybody. Any questions? Max, hello. Max says he loves this module. Hodor and Lembu are currently NPCs in my campaign. Good to see them living on. Let's see.
And yes, my Hodor was a long time before Hodor, so
Yes,
I'm still waiting for George R.R. Martin to send me some royalties. So
he'll send it right after he finishes A Song of Fire and Ice. I don't even read the books, and I'm salty about that.
I know. I read the first one, and after that, I went, okay, yeah. They're. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to the Silmarillion. I'm good. I'm good. A lot less. Well, no. If I said some of what's in that, I would get demonetized. I will watch all of the Game of Thrones stuff. I just know that it's the TV is different than literature, and it'll be different. And the new Rings of Power show is going to be different than the Silmarillion, but I'm probably going to enjoy the heck out of it. So I'm looking forward to it.
This is my I'm not face, but I politely agree to disagree with you on that. But no, that's a completely different discussion.
Right.
Let's see. So we've got our encounters, and again, folks, neophyte AD&D dungeon masters, folks that have followed me on this insane journey and said, I like what he's putting down. I'm picking up what he's putting down, and I want to try some of that AD&D. Ogre mages properly played are the end of a party, a 5th to 7th level party will not survive 2 ogre mages that are played to the blade. I'm just warning you. Although one could argue that the rust monster is even scarier. So we get to it. Or is there anything to you are my guest. This is as much Alan time as it is Bill time. Is there anything more you have to say about the characters, about kind of the preamble or anything before we kind of dive into encounters? And how are we doing on time? Because we're at about an hour, and you tell me what is good for you.
I could probably stick out another 30 or 40 minutes.
Okay.
So, I will say one other thing about the characters. The other aspect that sometimes the players catch on to, and sometimes they have to be brought around to it, is they're given the amulet of recall. And one of the as I get them march out there, I say, who's carrying the amulet? And then they we didn't think about that. And after a while, if they remember their character, bickerings and back and forth, they go, maybe we should give it to the one person that's not a criminal. So perhaps more trustworthy than the others.
Yes.
I had a question, complex question from Jack Photon. Do y'all have a system balancing threat versus PC's ability to absorb, recover versus frequency versus reward? Probably we did, but that's it more was judgment and experience, because nobody at TSR had less than 2 years worth of DMing, at this point. Of the designers and editors. So I'll just say that we do try to without doing a spoiler, there is a creature in here that does something that makes it really hard to recover from within the scope of one adventure. Going up in the tower level there. But here's the thing, you take the average number of saving throws based on the level of characters that you have. You go, probably one character is going to fail this critical save. Probably one character is going to be knocked out here. And that's you go with the odds, with the averages, with what's going to be the average on the die rolls at that point. So that's all I'll say onto that. It's, you do your best on it.
Yeah, and I kind of do something similar. I call it the hard test, the huge ancient red dragon, where I look at the character's XP, or look at the character's level, and say, if a huge ancient red dragon breathes on the party and everybody makes their saving throw, will anyone survive? And if the answer is yes, then the challenge is probably appropriate.
Yeah, and my similar test is I look at what can inflict the maximum 1 turn damage, and I say, if the weakest character makes his saving throw, he should barely survive it. That kind of thing. So I try not to do a one shot, because that's just not fun for people. Yeah.
I mean, with a first level party, you rolls your character, you takes your chances. Sometimes it's a bit of a meat grinder, but you build up a character from 5th to 6th, 7th level. You've got something invested in them.
Right.
And the DM saying, "Oh, sorry, Ray of Frost. That's 66 hit points. Sorry, that's just the way that goes." It can be a little anticlimactic. So, and I'm sorry. First of all, thank you, Alan, for catching that. And I apologize to Jack for missing that. Chat really gets going and stuff will fly by and I won't catch it. So that's you want to co-host with me, Al?
You're doing a great job. Thanks. Just spinning those plates.
The pay is consistent.
There you go.
It is consistent.
No, I want double.
Okay. I'll pay you exactly twice what I pay Kyle, my Wednesday night co-host. He's in Australia, so like he's on. It's the morning show for him, and it's the mid-evening post-supper show for us. And you have here the bullet points for scoring, as we were talking about earlier. So right off the bat, we can look at Area 1 as the exemplar with box text. And I was kidding earlier about, the horrible wandering monster box text. There are some later 2E modules, I won't name any authors, Hickman, excuse me, who tended to overuse box text a little bit. But I'm kidding about Tracy Hickman, by the way. But I actually kind of like it. When I was a kid playing D&D, I'd get kind of confused about what I should tell the characters about the room. So we have one here. We'll just kind of take this as an exemplar, and you can kind of walk us through this after. High on a hilltop above the trees and mist that surround Woolly Bay, there stands the ruined Keep Inverness. The keep's 4 towers pierce the dark clouds above, its massive walls anchored deep in the living rock upon which they rest. It must have been potent forces indeed that brought this once proud keep to destruction. The walls of the keep are 50 feet tall and 8 feet thick, with numerous large crumbling holes piercing them at various places. The 4 towers are each 150 feet tall. A large rusty portcullis blocks the 15-foot wide tunnel-like entrance. The holes in the wall are at heights indicated on the map. The portcullis may be lifted a few feet if characters wish to do so, requiring a combined total of 45 strength points. However, a much easier entry may be gained by climbing through one of the low holes in the walls. Although a little dust will be shaken down if a character probes a hole, these entries are completely safe. Scoring -5 score if the portcullis is forced open. So the inobvious answer will cost you points there.
Right. It's there's a, and that's arguable, but it was just if they take the time to force the portcullis open, really they're wasting some time, and that was the penalty idea there.
Right on. Okay, and just logically on to 2. An enormous pile of rubble, 20 feet tall, lies in the center of the courtyard. It consists of old but worked stones, which range in size from pebbles to 6-foot boulders. Ancient carvings are visible on some. They are now worn, but clearly show traces of ancient magic. This is all that remains of a large center tower. Cannot be verified by mere observation. The 4 shaded areas on the map look like the larger rubble pile, but the ground beneath them is unstable, and they are actually loose pitfalls. If they're stepped on, the pile will collapse, and the victims will fall, take 2 to 12 points of damage, 8 for tournament, which is something that I notice you guys did uniformly, and as somebody who has run some of these adventures as contests, thank you. Just being able to say you take 8 points without, that's 2d6. No, that's a d6 and a d8. Hang on a second. Just you take 8 points, boom, move on.
Well, again, for something in a tournament where we think that everybody is going to hit it, let's have a uniform experience there and make it quicker.
Just so. Prodding ahead will spring a pitfall. Monks and thieves may easily climb out. Characters in metal armor use ropes to escape pitfalls. There are 4 separate ones. Collapse of 1 will not affect any of the others. +10 if any pit collapses by prodding. +10 to individual score of the first characters to suggest prodding. I myself, this is just me, Bill speaking, I might allow a little bit of dwarven stone sensing there, just
all the characters were human.
They are all human in here. Okay, all right. Well, if using bespoke characters rather than the ones that are there,
then in that case, it wouldn't be in the tournament situation, and you could rule it as you wish, of course.
Right.
Nah, DM wins.
Because I'm the dungeon master, that's why. So we have the tower doors. Let me try that again in English. We have the tower doors. It's large, made of metal, and has a lock set into the center of it. It's very old and rusted and does not appear to work. The stone surrounding the door is weather-beaten but solid. It is decorated with ancient scrollwork and decorative designs. They must be forced open with normal chances. And if it does open, player gets a little bit more text. Behind the door is a circular room with a wrought iron spiral staircase in the center, leading down. In the far end of the chamber is a stairwell leading up, clogged with boulders, rubbles, and rotting timbers. And then
you're just trying to be as clear as possible. You can't go up. You can't go up. Stop trying to go up.
Yes. You want to waste time? Hey, you're the ones that had to drive up from Waukegan to play this, okay? you want to waste time in here, it's up to you. But you can't go up, guys. Alan says so. You're not going up.
Okay. You can force your way up and take a little bit of damage and you find nothing. Are you happy?
Yeah, exactly. You're in a rubble-choked room that has just enough space for you to wedge yourself into, right next to the skeleton of the last person that did it and got stuck. And again, right here, and you've got it. If we're doing this as a tournament, -5 to team score if 3 or more turns are spent clearing rubble. Now let's pause there and take a step back and talk about what the video game kids call speed running. Obviously here, the fewer amount of turns to complete the module, the better. Time management is key, as I have not managed time well tonight, but you get what I'm saying, gang. Did you ever witness a group of players not only finish it in a short amount of time, but literally like, no, 2 hours, 45 minutes, we're done. Boom. And just, that's it.
I want to say the fastest, I allot a 4-hour block at conventions when I run this now, and in today's players are not used to doing speed runs, an old competition, and I almost always have to compress time at the end to work everybody through to the final. I did have one group that was very clever and finished it in about 3 hours and 15 minutes. And the way you do this, there are a couple of the encounters that can be enormous time-wasting battles if you do them wrong, and they did some clever things and did it in a real-life time-efficient manner, which can enhance your role-playing efficiency as well.
Okay.
And what I mean is by saying we keep doing step A, B, and C until it's over, and you're right. That's what it took.
Right. So, not to focus too much on the tournament, but I guess the really good tournament players would have that team-like rhythm, that team-like execution, like, a military style sweep and clear of every encounter area insofar as the dice gave them that latitude.
Yeah, Bill, when my Alabama group played in a tournament that had a cash prize, we rehearsed and practiced and had strategies with formations with numbers and things like that. So we had a shorthand, and we also said any opportunity that we have for speed, we're going to take it. If we can haste, if we can potion speed, if we can run past things, we're going to run past things, because the MacGuffin is not going to be waiting in the middle. It's going to be at the end of everything. So
right. So one might say that you were going tempo and using process thinking.
Yes, and efficiency and practice makes good too. So
yes. And my co-host actually is in the audience. Military style sweep and clear. Yes, because it's right there in black and white in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Avoid unnecessary encounters.
And especially in a tournament.
Especially in a tournament. Again, I keep harping on time. You've got 3.5 to 4 hours. That's it. You're not going to come back tomorrow. You're not going to get together again next weekend. This is for the trophy, the Shakey's pizza coupons, the whole ball of wax. So TJ says he would have loved to have seen her played in a tournament. You just said you run this as a tournament these days still, yes?
I don't run it as a tournament. I mean, I run.
I see. Okay.
I run at conventions for individual parties, because pretty much every convention that has me as a guest insists that I run this at least once. So I do. I'm happy to. But and they're run with the classic characters, and they're run with the 4-hour time constraint for the whole period. So they get the experience of trying to be time efficient and trying to get everything done. That being said, depending on how different battles and things go at a convention, they're not coming back tomorrow. They're not coming back next weekend. I want to give them a good show. I will adjudicate later encounters and accelerate them to the final if we start running out of time.
I myself have done that at events. Just like, I look at the Dwarven Forge spread out on the table and where the party is at and what I want them to see. And after many hours of questing.
Well, and this was done commonly in the old wargaming Avalon Hill tournaments and miniatures, where the time period concluded, the game wasn't over, somebody had to come by and adjudicate based on where you were. So you simply try to extrapolate what you think they would have done from there. So
yeah, I have heard, and for all you about to say, well, Bill, your hair is gray enough, you were probably there. That ain't so. But I have heard that the great granddaddy of war games, the Prussian military school Kriegspiel, was adjudicated just like that. You would set your miniatures up on a sand table and place them as best you could, and a judge would come by with his swagger sticker, his quirt, and just say, "This many are knocked down by cannons. Move those there. You would have advanced. I declare you the winner." No dice rolls or anything.
Well, he was doing the dice rolls in his head.
Exactly. Where you were and how you put your troops together and what he thought at that particular moment were the whole thing. So,
but anyway, of course, with this, the last 2 or 3 things are things that everybody wants to participate in. So I will try to speed them up to get them to, so that everybody gets to participate in the last 2 or 3 rooms. So,
well, speeding or not speeding, I really, really hope I get to play at your table one day, because this is a module I've never got to sit on the experience side of, and only once or twice on the trigger side of. So this would be a right blast to play. Now, there are one of the joys of the older classic modules, and you don't see this anymore, are the visual aid section, and you've got some in here. This is the infamous chessboard room.
Nope, that's the other room.
That's the other room. Okay, that's not the. All right.
It's like I know these diagrams.
It's almost it's like you've seen this before or something. All right. That's the okay. All right. I got those two messed up. There we go.
I can't believe that you called that kind of red. This is a multicolored square room.
Sorry, a multicolored square room. And by the way, J.K. Rowling, you owe Alan some.
I'm sure that'll be coming along at the end of Fantastic Beasts. So.
Yes, exactly. Right after you get your check from George R.R. Martin, you'll get your you'll get yours from J.K. and then another beautiful piece here from Jim Rosloff there.
I love the visual aids because I actually played in tournaments where they didn't have stuff like that, and I went, man, they could have cleared some stuff up for us, and made it a better game if we had seen something like that. Now, this illustration is obviously key because that's when somebody first says, "Hey, it looks like the courtyard."
Right, and they start thinking about that. And I would just point out to folks, no, that is not a 5 1/4 floppy falling out of the lamp there. So let's see, over to 4, and this was the early tournament modules. This was more common than not. You had Tracy Lesh originally did the Tomb of Horrors, but it was never published. It was Gary's folio version of Tomb of Horrors had Tracy's illustrations, and then later the published version had a section like this with Dave Sutherland and Dave Trampier's art in it, and I think Dave LaForce too. The many Daves.
The many Daves of TSR.
The many Daves of TSR. So we got that one. Number 4, another map. This is the Fire Giant section, I believe. Yes,
you are correct. That's the
Yay! I got something right tonight.
the G very cleverly coded as the giant. So
yes.
I did I did feel clever about my description of that low. I said your view of the opposing landing is somewhat blocked by the large fire giant standing astride it. So.
Yeah, I remember that one. Then we got the tropical island level that this just makes me want to.
Island level, yeah. Nothing could go wrong there.
Absolutely. A place of repose and calm amidst the maelstrom that is the Ghost Tower.
That's where you can take your long rest and recover and play all happy 5e feelings.
Exactly. Just shuck your armor, dive in the water because nothing is in there.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's see. And then the 6th one we've got this is the gemstone room. This is where everything goes south if your party is not completely well prepared.
And the funny thing is that everybody is trying to outthink, and in this case, the most primitive approach is the correct approach. So
yeah.
Well.
Yeah, exactly.
Into it, though. I mean, and I have seen people be careful in popping themselves up one at a time and just pop themselves up so slowly that they all get killed one at a time. So
it is the Ghost Tower's equivalent of we're detecting evil and magic from that great devil face on the wall, so that must be the entrance to a Sararak's tomb. We'll line up and walk in.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, the gemstone room, and we'll I mean myself and the audience. I would love it if you could be here for the entire run through this module, but I know you've got more important things to do than hang out with a young neckbeard night in and night out. But we'll kind of go into exactly what can go wrong in this room, guys. Don't worry, we're not just skimming over this and telling tales out of school. We're gonna come back and get our hands dirty here, because there's the dungeons, the tower itself. The tower is so elementally cool. Let me ask you this: what's your favorite encounter in the dungeons proper?
In the dungeons proper, I well, I mean, really, one of them is a puzzle room, and one of them can be an encounter, but it's also kind of a puzzle room to figure out. But gosh, the room over the room with the Umber Hulk was probably my favorite, just because again, so many things can go wrong if they're not figuring it out. And it takes I always like to, I don't say here comes the Umber Hulk, I say here comes, and I'll read the description of the creature and then show them the illustration that's coming out. And then if they, I don't even care if they're metagaming at that point. If they go, oh, an Umber Hulk, I don't want to look. Okay, you attack at -4 then, but that's okay. Anyway, lots of fun can happen there. So really, really that's the one. Now I have had people in the chess room misidentify what's going on so badly they nearly TPK'd themselves, and then got over, went into the chamber, went to the passageway beyond, realized they had to come back, and forgot how to move and nearly TPK'd themselves on the way back too. So I've had, you have brilliant parties, and then you have parties that are brilliantly different. So
brilliant parties and parties that are brilliantly different. Yeah, well, I mean,
differently enabled. So
yeah, it's their as we say in the South, we'll bless their hearts.
Special. They're special.
They're special. Bless their hearts.
Yeah.
And we have kind of a side view, and this is one we didn't really touch on this, but this really is one of the coolest features of, I think, of the entire Ghost Tower, is the aforementioned tropical room is upside down, or to quote Tom Cruise in Top Gun, because I was inverted.
Yes, the entire level is under reverse gravity, which I want, okay, so to get to the gem room, you have to go through this entire level, which is reverse gravity, correct? Mm-hmm. So yes. In the gem room, swear to God, at least 2 or 3 times a year, somebody tries to throw a dispel magic. And I go, okay, you just went through an entire level of the dungeon that had a permanent reverse gravity put on it. Do you know what you have to roll to dispel this? Okay, 20. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, this is kind of strange, but remember in classic dungeons, things were more powerful the deeper you went down. And so I thought of the idea of having a dungeon where it was going to be more challenging the further you went up, and I was trying to figure out a logical way to do this. And then I said, okay, I'm going to make them go down first, so that then they can go up, and then I'm going to confuse them because they think they're falling down, and for a level. And anyway, so I had fun with that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I think again, we here on the show, we're going to be taking a more zoomed in look at a lot of these places that Alan has kind of taken us on a guided tour through. But I will say, even before we get to the end, DMs, you owe it to yourself to add this one to your arsenal. Whether you're running a Greyhawk, whether you're running your own homebrew campaign world, or some other published one, find room for the Ghost Tower of Inverness. It is a fantastic module in both the sense that it is great and in the sense that it is full of fantastical stuff, like inverted tropical island rooms in the middle of a tower, chest traps, ogre mages just kind of roaming around the grounds, all sorts of fun stuff. You absolutely owe it to yourself to grab this. I think this one is available at least as a PDF. It might be print on demand if somebody wants to check me on that. Thank you, Doomsword. Goodness gracious. Appreciate that. That is from Doomsword. He says, fascinating show. Love the module.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that. But yeah, get yourself a copy of this by hook or by crook, and play it. Add it to your campaign world. It is very, very, very good.
I know that one of the virtual tabletop games has it as an option, as a purchasable thing. It's not Roll20. It's one of the
Fantasy Grounds. Is it Fantasy Grounds?
Fantasy Grounds, I believe, had it, but I believe that you can find, PDFs maybe at drive-thru or somewhere, for it. But it's a lot of fun. And if you get a chance, there was an episode of the Goldbergs a few years ago where they actually played the Ghost Tower of Inverness on the TV show.
That's right. Okay, so then thank you for reminding me. Did you nitpick, or were you able to just sit back and enjoy?
I had a lot of fun because it was a strange challenge thing, because it was kind of the jocks against the nerds, and but the coach let the nerds choose a challenge, and they said, D&D, and a little bit of gasp of breath, and then so I said, Ghost Tower of Inverness, and then a deeper gasp of breath, and then he says, competition mode, and guys' eyes get big wide. It's wonderful. I love that.
That had to be I mean, were you aware even that was going to be on, or did somebody else tell you about it? Or
I found out about it after the fact, and kind of got a repeat recording of it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I got referenced. This module got referenced in the second D&D movie as well too. So
yeah, that's right. Because they're talking about like all the places they've been, or all the evils.
He was with me when we stormed the Ghost Tower of Inverness. So
that just, how do you not just smile all day when you see stuff like that pop up? It's like I did a little bit of writing work for Gary, and unpublished, unfortunately. I've talked about those circumstances and not going to rehash it now, but see him on the episode of Futurama, and I'm like, I know that guy. So now I know that. Yeah, I know that. Now I can watch the Goldbergs go, I know that guy.
There you go.
But TV show or not, I am glad to know you, and I'm glad. I thank you very much for swinging by the show tonight and chewing the fat about an absolutely excellent module. Again, guys, get and play Ghost Hour of Inverness. Add it to your campaign worlds. Put it in your quiver, because they're afraid of the Tomb of Horrors. They're wary of Against the Giants. They won't see this one coming.
Very good. All right. Thank you so much, Bill. It's been a lot of fun, and good night,
Okay.
everyone. I appreciate all the kind words. I really do.
Indeed. We'll see you back again, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hey, don't forget this Saturday, we're going to kick Utah around for a little bit, and then we're going to tear the horns off the Longhorns.
Roll Tide and go.
Roll Tide. Absolutely. Have a good one, Alan. Take care.
Good night.
Well, that was a lot of fun, folks. Alan Hammack. Yes, the Alan Hammack. That was awesome. I'm sorry, Dungeon Minister. I missed your son's comment. Alan, if you're out there watching or listening still, Dungeon Minister says, my eldest asked who Bill had on. I told him the author of a classic module. His response was, he's gone big league. Well, thank your son. Thank your son for me. I do appreciate it. And I think, again, Doomsword, thank you for the super. That is awesome. We appreciate that. So tomorrow we are going to get back into AD&D mode. As you know, we're splitting the shows, and I do a little preamble before. We're not done. We're not done, guys. We're gonna get back into Ghost Tower and look at some more of the nuts and bolts. I mean, we've had Alan on, and he's talked to us about so much cool stuff that we just wouldn't have gotten just with me rolling on and rambling. It was some great info from Alan, and I have to admit something. Is that first of all, we had there were like 30 people watching the stream. Welcome, all of you. That's a welcome to everyone who is watching. If you're new to the show, if you're just watching just now, like you came over from a Discord channel or from just YouTube kind of spat you out and you landed on our front porch, welcome and thank you so much. Please consider clicking that subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications. We appreciate all that kind of thing around here. And welcome, really. And as some of you may have seen, of course, if you're new to the show, you can support us on Patreon. You can support us on Subscribestar. You can support us directly through PayPal, if that's your wish, if that's what you want to do. Some have elected to, and I want to take a moment to thank those folks. Specifically, I want to thank Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Death Master, Mark Simpson, Damien247, James F. Keck, William Smith, The Dungeon Minister, Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, the increasingly frighteningly named Carnivore Farmer, Rob knows I can't say that, list, Jeremy Rolbogan, or a Mikey Mank, Sky Hernstrom, Pete Sullivan, and the DM's Council. That's right, the entire DM's Council. We appreciate everyone's participation. And I thank you all so very, very, very much. But anyway, tomorrow night, we will return. We will talk about some more Ghost Tower, and hopefully I won't make as many mistakes this time. And then we will play some AD&D. I ignored all of your comments about the horse, Tonka, and the reason I did, he's in the room with you. But anyway, so that's all going down. I'm gonna see if I can scare up a bite to eat. I had kind of a not great weekend, but hey, I didn't have the 1,000-yard stare, and I didn't look like I was about to cry tonight. So that's good. Thank you, Dungeon Minister. I love your channel very much. You have a 1,000 plus subs, so I'm not telling people to subscribe anymore. I'm just kidding. No, I don't want. Good Lord. Windows is like a Jehovah's Witness. Have you heard about our Lord and Savior Restart? Which, my apologies if anyone out there is Jehovah's Witness. Just, a door-to-door salesman. How about that? It's more like a door-to-door salesman. Good evening, sir, madam. Have you heard about our restart policy? But anyway, no, all kidding aside, Dungeon Minister is a great channel to subscribe to. I do recommend that you go subscribe to Dungeon Minister's channel. Always. Subscribe to mine too, but also subscribe to his. Oh my gosh. That's about all I've got for tonight, guys. We had an awesome guest on with Alan. We're going to come back. We're going to Ghost Tower tomorrow. The day after that, we're going to play some Traveler. That's right. We have a lot of Traveler players now. You're missing the boat. Come and play Traveler if you want to play Classic Traveler. Thursday stuff. We will continue to dig into Ghost Tower. Otherwise, we will start Temicon. If we wrap up Ghost Tower tomorrow night, we will start Temicon on Thursday night. Otherwise, we will continue on. If we're still not done with Ghost Tower by the end of Thursday, we will continue it on Friday. Otherwise, we will start Temicon on Friday. You see how that works. But Friday, we're also playing Gamma World. And I mentioned this Friday. I mentioned this last Friday, and I'll mention it again now. Probably in October. We're going to shift gears with one of our game streams, probably Friday nights, and we're going to play some Call of Cthulhu. Come October, if you're a big fan of Gamma World, there are a few more episodes of Gamma World. And I'm not saying we'll never come back to Gamma World, or that we won't some way facilitate Gamma World streams in the future, running parallel to Call of Cthulhu. But it's a lot on my plate, and there was like a big, by which I mean 4 or 5 people, because look at the channel size. But there was a surge of support for Call of Cthulhu. AD&D is not going anywhere. We're playing AD&D on Tuesday night until our damn arms fall off from rolling dice. And Kyle will keep us up to our spacesuits in Traveler on Wednesday nights. Are there any rot grubs in Ghost Tower? Well, I wasn't gonna, but now that you bring it up, I think I might. So all of that, and more. So Dungeon Minister says, I'm happy about the Cthulhu game. You may not be by the end of it. Let me just get my copy of Vincent Bugliosi's Helter Skelter and the novelization of the Amityville Horror and my weather-beaten copy of the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey and cook up an adventure or two. Bro to the Bling Bear, did you hear about the Lovecraftian comedian Nair Laugh Otep? Get out. Is he gone? Okay. That was so bad, I'm surprised I didn't say it myself. All right, guys, I'm going to dip out of here. Thank you all again for watching. Thank you to the folks who've come to the show. Oh, I said I was going to get out of here, and I keep one more minuting myself to death. But because I think this is funny. Like I think this next thing is funny. I scheduled the show last night. I scheduled the show, and I set the start time for 7:30 tomorrow morning and not 7:30 tonight. My Sunday was pretty terrible. So I think I can be forgiven fat fingering that, but I just thought it was kind of funny in retrospect, because I was like, oh my God, nobody's going to be here. Nobody's going to come and watch. And then like we peaked out at like 30 of you guys in the audience. So it all worked out well. Good night. I love you all. Thank you for being here.